can remember, they're changing my voice. Before I start this video, I'd like to point out that the pictures on the screen aren't meant to be insulting in this video. Some of the most enjoyable times I've had in my life, up there somewhere, we'll say, were with people who don't seem like the sharpest person that ever lived, right? They're friendly people, they mean well. You know, a lot of times people who pick up on things better than other people are assholes. And a lot of times people who pick up on things, you know, including females, less often than other people. You know, maybe they're more book smart, maybe they're not, but a lot of times they're kinder people. And ironically, they seem to be more considerate, even though they're not picking up on everything that would make them truly considerate, which is another reason I'm right. So I want you to imagine me approaching one of these females on the screen. And keep in mind, the guy on the screen, you know, Donald Ewan Cameron, a figure from the history of the on-record and acknowledged experiments to control the mind for the state's interests, the corporate and corrupt state's interests, is there in the corner. His job and the masses of infrastructure, be they military, contractors, police, gang members, assets of any kind. You know, lots of these people, not every person in that group perhaps, in those groups perhaps, but the masses of them are trying to interfere. They don't want me to wake them up, so to speak, right? Waking up, waking up, write that down. I'm not from the woke movement, but I'm from the way, the king, who is actually morally precise, who's the king of moral precision and righteousness and justice and romance and spiritual prowess and mental prowess, okay? And moral prowess, moral clarity, universal pinpointed moral precision, focused moral intensity. Who is the king of morality? That is me. God, obviously, is the God of all righteous people. God is God. But I'm the king of moral precision, the gate that God's moral precision comes through. So as I approach these females, I say, you know, just pick one, pick all of them. Okay, well, first we'll do one, pick one, and imagine me approach them and say, hello, ma'am, you know, hello, miss, how you doing? I'd really like to talk to you about something very important. You know, if you don't have any time right now, you know, can you at least take my card, take my number? This is life or death stuff. I'm not a con man. And if you really look at me carefully, you can tell that I'm a good person. I'm not a con artist. Okay, I'm the son of 2 doctors, one a brain surgeon. I have a top martial artist challenge for over 9 years that I offer people, you know, lots of money if they can beat me, pay nothing if they lose. Okay, I do not want the resources from that person, right? I want them to hear me out. That's all I want. Okay, if you have no time now, I ask you to take my number, take my card, and that you contact me urgently. Which person from there do you think would respond? They say, I'm sorry, I don't know you, I'm sorry. They would likely say some shit like that, even though A, it's been pointed out it's an emergency. B, I've made crystal clear logical arguments that are more believable than not by far that I'm the son of 2 doctors. C, I look like a good person, and I pointed that out. Okay, it's urgent, look like a person, son of 2 doctors, and I even threw in the martial art challenge, which says that, which screams that I have a higher consciousness and awareness of things. So why would we expect those females to then throw me in the category of a Nigerian con man, an African American thug, some kind of assorted mulatto thug or brown skin thug or liar or whatever? Why wouldn't they hear me out right then and there? Number one, okay, they're defensive because they're vulnerable. They're not defensive because they're not vulnerable. They're defensive because they are vulnerable, physically and mentally. They didn't have the foresight and the presence of mind to have some kind of self-defense plan, if such a thing is logical. They didn't have the mental prowess to kind of be in the repetition of masterfully analyzing situations, which is a basic life skill. And certainly a martial arts skill. First, we must try to understand others. First, we must understand ourselves and master ourselves, rather. And then we must try to understand others, is what martial artist called Master He El Cho had said. Okay, pretty straightforward, right? So why don't they hear me out? Now imagine me approaching them together. They're from the same group, social club, group of friends, sorority, you name it. I said, excuse me, ladies, can I talk to you for a moment about something very important? Okay? They've been looking for a way to get me the fuck out of there. Why? Because I'm a different race. I'm universally handsome, historically and to some degree still. but they be looking for a way to get me the fuck out of there. The vast majority of cases, 9 times out of 10 people that look like that, that is what they're communicating, and they've allowed themselves to slip into that state of being where they say, hey, you better not try to talk to me because I'm going to hit you with psychological punishments if you do, is the argument that's made by their body language. Okay, now some of you know people, or maybe you're the type of person yourself would argue, it's not like that. No, not everyone's like that. Okay, not everyone's like that, but what is the percentage? Would you go into a Klan's meeting, a meeting of the Ku Klux Klan as a black person, and assume that not every Klan person's like that just because they're in the Klan? So with certain group conformity and uniformity comes certain logical assumptions, right? And the Klan is a dramatic example of that. A sorority is another example of that. If it's an ethnic sorority, they not only dates only their race for the most part, but they date only people in their brother fraternity or whatever it's called, the fraternity that they're allowed to date. Okay, they'll be saying things like, ew, a black guy. That black guy came up to us as some weird black guy we don't know, right? Even though I'm more normal than they are. They're in a fucking sorority. That is fucking weird. That's like alpha, theta, fighter. Hey, bye. Oh my gosh. It's weird to be a groupie ass bitch after it's been depicted in movie time and time again. Why not to be a dumb groupie bitch? Why not to be a dumb sorority slut? But they still chose to do that. Okay? So for me to approach them, I know, and it's gonna be reflected in my behavior to some degree, no matter how much I practice it. I'm gonna be a little nervous, and I'm gonna know that they are unlikely to respond favorably. Okay? And that is part of the understanding that they have and that they project when they say, hey, that they're that type of person from that race, in that group, with that kind of mannerisms, demeanor, posture, behavior, composure. You see what I'm saying? They're communicating by their body language and the language of the symbols that they carry when the sorority in that case. Okay, their dress are symbols that make them a conformist that doesn't want to hear the Son of God because he's not from their race and subculture. That is an example of bad judgment. When you see me in a hooded sweatshirt and some kind of jeans or something, some kind of khaki pants, some work pants, and some tennis shoes, and I'm wearing glasses, and I'm mulatto, and I'm tall, and I move in a certain way that reflects that I'm considerate, okay, I'm communicating that I'm easy to talk to. You see what I'm saying? And so, these females don't have the sense to communicate that they're fair to the most righteous of people. Therefore, they don't know what the fuck they're doing in life. They're pretty much guaranteed to miss the purpose of life, and they're communicating that shamelessly. Not that they should cover it up per se, but these things all must be considered. So as they're not considerate, as they're not careful, as they don't have careful perception, okay, etc. They're not discerning, they're not loving, they're not loyal, they're not kind, they're not smart, they're not wise, they're not intelligent. They just might be book smart. That's like saying if someone can knit well, that they're smart. They just happen to be skilled at some math, science, whatever. English, okay? But they're not smart. Those are just particular skill sets. Everyone has some skill set and something is, so to speak. But not everyone's smart. Pretty straightforward. The school system has actually been structured to favor unfocused people who have more tolerance for school-related stress and bullshit. And that's why they tend to get better grades. They're taught in a way that's culturally familiar to them. They talk about familiar spirits, right? Cultural memory, right? Their genes remember being taught that way, so to speak. Okay, if you don't know what I mean, my goodness. So the logical assumption, these parents, if their parents love them, they tell them to submit to me immediately because they don't know what they're doing and their daughter doesn't know what they're doing. Their grandparents almost certainly don't know what they're doing. In fact, they don't. Their community, their neighbors don't know what they're doing. Their friends don't know what they're doing. I know what I'm doing. Okay, like my dad's the brain surgeon. Should the patient do brain surgery on the brain surgeon, or should the brain surgeon do brain surgery on the patient? Should God's son lead the sheep who don't know what the fuck they're doing, or should the sheep who don't know what the fuck they're doing say, let's have a consensus and lead God's son? I mean, this is fucking no-brain stuff here.